Hey guys, I'm streaming because I want to try and lay some thoughts out, which I've been struggling with. I've been trying to figure out in my own head, um, what the right course of action is with everything that's gone on in the last week, and it's going to take a long while for me to talk you through everything that I've been thinking. Um, for starters, quickly though, I stuck up a video shortly after the last stream about the posters that Labour had put up about Rishi Sunak a few years ago. When they, does Rishi Sunak believe that child sex abusers should go to prison? No, Rishi Sunak doesn't. And basically saying how I thought that those posters were absolutely wrong when Labour had done them, because they were an attack on Rishi Sunak's character. They weren't, they weren't really based in a sort of sort of the truth of the matter as it existed, um, and that it was essentially sort of a form of karma coming back to Labour. That now, after the vote yesterday, the Tories had launched their own posters saying, "Do you think there should be a grooming inquiry? Insert name of Labour MP here." Doesn't. But at the end of the video, what I had said was that it was wrong when Labour did it, and then it was wrong when the Tories did it now. Which, reflecting on that after I'd done the stream, I realised wasn't really accurate, because it was very much wrong of Labour to have done what they did. The thing with the Tories, though, is that the posters they're putting out in response to saying, these Labour MPs don't want a grooming inquiry. Well, Labour have the position of not wanting a grooming inquiry, and the Labour MPs voted against the amendment for a grooming inquiry yesterday. So there's absolutely more of a factual basis in what the Tories have put on their poster than what Labour had back then. I think what clouded it in my mind somewhat is the fact that the Tory amendment to the Labour bill yesterday not only called for a grooming inquiry, but also would have killed the Labour bill. And I felt that that sort of additional context missing from what the Tories were putting out had an element of not representing the full truth to it either. But I'm quite willing to concede that the statement of saying these Labour MPs don't want a grooming inquiry, that's absolutely fair enough. So as a result of that, I realised that I did not want to stand by everything I said in that other video. So that's why I pulled it off the channel. But I wanted to come and sort of explain myself with that. And as for the sort of the wider situation and the issue of a grooming inquiry, if you've seen the other stream that I've done today, speaking about my thoughts about Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the online right at the moment, and the whole context in which this debate in this country has been reignited, about grooming gangs and whether there should be an inquiry or not, you'll know that I've been, deeply, deeply concerned about the fact that you've got a close ally of Donald Trump who, seems to have stumbled upon the fact that we've had this problem that's happened in this country, but then has decided on top of that to sprinkle on his own layers of conspiracy to say, "Oh yes, Starmer is complicit in the rape of Britain," misrepresenting things that either he or I think even Gordon Brown had put about in the past, and generally speaking, pushing everything that he was saying to further his own far right narrative, which is absolutely the sort of people that Elon Musk is in bed with at the moment. I've got no doubt about that. So then add to that the facts that your Kemi Badnocks, your Robert Jenricks, and all the rest of it, people who had never been as particularly vocal about going, "Oh yes, we should have a big inquiry that joins up all the dots between all these different cases in these different towns where it's been predominantly Pakistani men that have been abusing these girls. It's time that we finally look at all of this." Well, they hadn't been doing that. It hadn't been on their agenda up until the point where Musk had come along and started pushing that. But as I say, along with his own layer of trying to destabilize our government and saying things that just blatantly aren't true. or at the very least misrepresenting things. So with that, I had then sort of been torn between, on the one hand, sort of wanting to side with the government, or at least defend the government against what I felt was a very sinister attack by people at the height of power in another country, on our country. I've seen what Musk is trying to do to us and to others, and I know that his absolute end goal really is to see all of the governments in Europe at the moment that have a centrist or left of centre government replaced with something that's either on the populist right or the far right, much more akin to, uh, you know, Donald Trump or the AfD in Germany or what have you. So that really did set off a very visceral reaction in me to say, well, I don't want to be going after Labour on this particular issue at the time when I feel that there's so much going on right now, against our government, which is quite destabilizing and quite threatening, I think, to the discourse. However, that said, it's been pointed out to me, and reflecting on it, the fact that just because a bad person with bad intentions sets off a debate or calls for a certain thing, doesn't mean that that thing in of itself is the wrong thing to do. And as much as Labour says, well, we've had a previous inquiry already, so let's implement the results of that inquiry, the thing is that the previous inquiry pertained to a much kind of broader issue of child sex abuse. It was not about the grooming gangs specifically. And that probably is something that really does need looking at. It's something that probably should have had a joined up inquiry really looking into it all a long time ago. But your Labour, your Tories, your everyone else, no one wanted to look at that kind of stuff. And I think in part have been fears in my mind of a degree of feeling like doing that is capitulating to the far right, because they're the ones that, as I say, have instigated this debate as it's currently been going on for the past week. But then again, I need to remind myself that part of the problem in the first place with all of this, with the fact that there were so many failures in protecting these young girls against the grooming gangs, is because of a fear of being seen to be doing the wrong thing, or because it was a difficult issue to tackle, or not wanting to appear prejudiced against a certain group of people, and that kind of thing. And that is what allowed the likes of Tommy Robinson and others to capitalize on that kind of an issue and say, well, hey, look, this is going on, and there's been massive failures, and there doesn't really seem to be much that's being done about it. So then, suddenly the far right is the only show in town that actually want to be talking about that. But sorry, bear with me. But as I say, I think the trouble that I'd had is that the far right at the moment are trying to paint an additional element to this, of saying that it's not just that there had been these grooming gangs going on, it's not just that there had been failings of the establishment in protecting these girls, but also that there were deliberate efforts for a cover-up, and that the Labour Party is deeply involved in the fact that there was a cover-up, and that there was a trade of the well-being of young girls for votes. Keir Starmer complicit in the rape of Britain. Jess Phillips, an advocate for rape, genocide. God knows what else has been said. and that really is what I've been incredibly torn about, because I've not wanted to feel as if I was feeding into that particular narrative about the issue. Because, like I say, I'm so deeply concerned about the influence that the far right and the MAGA crowd and all the overlap that it has is having on our country right now. However, um, I don't think I don't think it's right to say that there shouldn't be an inquiry, though, because clearly it is a thing that needs to be looked at. Clearly, there have been an awful lot of failings for people that should have been protected, and you need to get to the bottom of it. So I think, in that being the case, then Labour's position on this is wrong, and there should be an inquiry into it. And it's something that they probably should U-turn on at the earliest availability. So that's that's what I wanted to try and lay out to you guys, really. That I'll be honest with you, I've not been in a good place in the past week with politics. You know that I've like quit Twitter in the past day. Sometimes when I get too focused on the news or too concerned about things that I'm seeing, I become obsessive about it. It starts to affect my my mental health in a negative way. And I've totally noticed that happening to me this week as well. Yes, I can see your comments, by the way. I'm going to read them in a moment. And you know, it's taken me a while working through all that stuff to come round to what I think is the right answer on this, which is that I don't get me wrong. I think that the Robert Jenricks of the world are trying to make political hay out of this. It may be that they're advocating for what is the right thing, to have a proper look at this, but I think that it stinks of a bandwagon of looking for political gain as well. But then again, I think that you should still do the right thing, even if there are elements from people calling for it that are not necessarily doing it for the best reasons, if that makes sense. Anyway, I want to. I'll read some comments here. And I had said probably should have an inquiry, but whatever the outcome, it will never satisfy the extremists. And Enticing is saying that everyone supports high taxes and mass immigration. Okay, then. And I adds, as someone on the left and the depressing stuff of Trump winning and reform surging, I've shut myself off to politics a fair amount for my health and sanity. Yeah, and there's a temptation to do that for me as well, but at the same time, there's a bit of me that thinks that it's wrong of me to shut myself off, because then I'm deliberately not looking at the problem. Huh. Probably in a way of the fact that the grooming gangs weren't looked at for a long amount of time either. Maybe that's the lesson to be learned here, isn't it? That if there are problems in front of us, we need to confront them head on, but perhaps not obsess about them to the point that they start doing us damage. How much we're thinking about them, I don't know. Anyway, folks. Anyway, look. I've said what I wanted to say on that. I think that being engaged in politics 24/7 will make you miserable. Yes, no, absolutely. And I think that the facts that I feel like I'm raking myself over the coals about this, when I really shouldn't be. I really shouldn't be having this level of reaction to everything that's going on right now. It's not particularly good for me. I think for the time being, at least, I should make an effort to just do some other things if I'm going to be making content on the YouTube channel for now, until I can approach the issues that are going on with a clearer mind and feeling a little bit less. I don't know if emotional is the right word. But there we are. Anyway, yeah. So that's it, folks. I just wanted to sort of discuss that there, and say, you know, as far as the earlier stream went, I think Labour were absolutely wrong with their posters that they put out about Sunak back then, and I'd said that much at the time. And it is a form of karma towards them that the Tories have now done the same posters at something that they've actually put out there as their actual position there. So yeah, I think they should U-turn. I think that we should have an inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. I also think that Labour should call out the lack of support from the Tories and other parties of opposition in the face of all of the falsehoods being thrown their way from Elon Musk as well. I think all of those things can be the right thing to do at the same time. There we are. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. I'll see you later.